Hello, LevelUp 2021. My name is Tom Hammond. I'm really excited to be with you today talking about the psychology of game monetization. Really, our goal today is to understand why players spend. Um, this is something that's really near and dear to my heart. I love helping people build successful game companies, but after all, it is a business. We do need to figure out how we can make at least enough revenue such that we can cover salaries so that we can continue to make games. And I see a lot of game studios, game designers, product managers, folks really miss this last piece of how you connect why your players spend to your monetization strategies. Even in the last month, I worked with a studio that in the past has had top 200 grossing games, and they're launching a new title, and the monetization is having some issues. Again, it comes back to the fundamental principles that we're going to cover here. So I'm really excited to dig in. But before we do, a little bit about me. As I mentioned, my name is Tom. I've been working with mobile free-to-play for about a decade, primarily working on the monetization side of things. Currently the CEO and co-founder of a company called UserWise. We're building the world's first player engagement management platform. I'm also a husband and a dad of 2 little girls. But let's dive in. So today we're going to be talking about why people or why players spend, what makes a game fun, and finally a little bit about how to create offers that your players love, and just some tips as to when to trigger those and how to trigger those and what you should incorporate in those to see better conversion rates. So first up, let's talk about psychology. So as some people tend to forget, players are people too, right? And as people, we all tend to have the same default thoughts, behaviors, and drives. And so it's really important for us to understand psychologically, what is going on in our minds, especially when we're taking out our wallets to spend money. So let's talk a little bit about that. Purchasing is a very highly complex and emotional behavior. Something that a lot of people don't really think about is most of the time that we spend on this earth, we spend working. And why do we work? So that we can accumulate wealth, so that we can survive, eat, sleep, spend money on entertainment. So we spend a lot of time gathering those resources, but when it comes to spending them, we tend to try to protect those. It's very easy to spend all the money that we've earned, right? And it's also important to remember that players have limited budgets. So, just because you design your game for a player to be able to spend $100 a week in it or $1,000 or whatnot, doesn't mean that they actually can. And different players will have different spending limits. So you should always keep that in mind as you're working with players. But just keep in mind that purchasing is a very complex behavior. So why do players spend, or why do people spend? There's a number of kind of standard reasons. First off, to portray an image. There's a certain reason why when your neighbor goes and gets a new car that you suddenly feel like you need to upgrade your car. Somebody gets a nice shiny new grill. Oh, I want to emulate that behavior. We tend to default into, it's not even about what we think, our image is. It's about what we think others think of our image is really who we are. And so when it comes to spending on those designer clothes or things like that, depending on the image that we're trying to portray, we tend to do that. Fear of missing out, or FOMO, as it's so often called in gaming. Really, fear of missing out is the idea that, tomorrow or later today, whenever it is, I'm going to have a regret that I didn't spend money on that offer. I'm playing some puzzle game, man, I really wish I had the booster pack that I could have bought yesterday. And so we have this desire to avoid the pain of regret. And that's really what fear of missing out is. How do we ensure that I'm not going to have that pain tomorrow when I could have this thing today? To gain and earn freedom. A really good example of this is paying for a housekeeper to come to your house and clean. Is that person selling a clean house, or are they selling more time? I would argue the latter. They come in and they take care of some tasks that need to be done, but because you no longer have to do those tasks, you have more free time. And that is worth a dollar value to you that you ultimately pay to the housekeeper. Next, to fit in, or this idea of belonging. You see fads come about so often and you wonder, where did that possibly come from? But somehow it became part of the in crowd. And so everyone wants to feel like they belong, that they're part of the pack, that they're doing something that others are doing. And so we're willing to spend to feel like we belong there. Immediate gratification. This is something that I think happens a lot in games and can be done even more. People want things now. I don't want to have to wait to get something. I want it now. So this is really powerful in games because you can give them an offer at the appropriate time, and I can spend a little bit right now and get this really great thing that I can just use right away. That's super powerful. And then lastly, solving a problem. So I wouldn't say this is as relevant to gaming, although I will say that every audience in gaming does have some fundamental problems with whatever games they're playing. And if you can understand those and solve those, and those are meaningful problems, there's great opportunities for other games. However, typically when we think about solving a problem, we think about the pain of everyday life. Google solved search. Netflix solved streaming. There's many different opportunities that are out there. The bigger the problem that it is for people, the more that you can ultimately charge for it. But solving problems can be a really powerful tool. So let's talk a little bit about why we play games as people. So I would say there's two main buckets. Social fulfillment. I think there was a study that was recently done that over 75% of players play games with friends and family. Inherently, humans are social beings. We want to be around people. We want to feel connected. We want to be part of the pack. And gaming can give us those avenues to do that, even if it's with complete strangers, as we're part of a guild. And then, the second is psychological fulfillment. And so I'd break this down into kind of three categories. The first is autonomy. We like to feel like we're in control. And gaming allows us to do that. First, we're able to be in control of when we choose to play a game. And then once you get into the game, you're also in control of how you play the game. What are the things that you do in that game? You don't necessarily have to play the game the way that it was designed to be played. And in fact, many players won't do that. And it's that feeling of autonomy that can bring a lot of meaning psychologically to people. Next is competence. We like to feel like we are continually gaining new skills. We are continually getting better. And gaming is a great place for us to do that. You start level 1, it's very easy. By the time you get to level 100, things are much more challenging, but because you've come along the way, you've learned new skills, you're able to better achieve those things. Also, there's this idea of perceived competence, I should say, that can be done in gaming too. So, after you beat a level, we can throw up those big "congrats, you're awesome" screens that can add to this perceived confidence and competence that just really reinforces these feelings for players. And finally, relatedness, which is basically the social fulfillment that we talked about. Every player is a little bit different, and every audience is different. These are 6 different areas that people will have different orientations towards. So action, really getting in there, doing things really fast. Social mechanics, working with guilds, working with clans. Mastery or competence, as we talked about. Achievement, some people really seek to go out and complete everything, explore the entire map, collect all the stars. Immersion, it's kind of nice sometimes to be able to just get away from my life, put myself in, some new experience, some hero in some far off world, and just experience what that could be like. That immersion can be really powerful. Finally, creativity. We like to be able to express ourselves in different ways. You see a lot of decorative type games and ways that players can express themselves. And it can be a really powerful way that they can really connect with the game and feel that individuality. And so each player is going to have different aspects of these things. And so understanding your player base can allow you to see that, oh, a lot of my players really enjoyed this immersion type experience. So if I can give them more of those experiences, they're much more likely to engage in my game and be retained. So let's switch gears a little bit. And now we're going to talk about why players spend on your game. There's a multitude of reasons. Firstly, they might be curious. A new player comes in the game and you flash them the starter pack with an awesome axe and some armor. Wow, it looks pretty nice. I wonder how it would be to wear that, how it would be to use that thing. And I want to spend some money to do that. Necessity, sometimes you get stuck at a hard level and, here's the thing that you need, the last little bit of ore that you need to finish that shield or to beat that level in Candy Crush. Exclusivity. League of Legends is a great example of this. You can get the heroes for free, but if you want those snazzy looking skins, you got to fork over some money for that. And when it comes to a time limited seasonal skin that's never going to be around again, I could get that, and it's very exclusive. Pretty cool. Opportunity. This is closer to that fear of missing out type thing, but I don't want to miss out on this 50% deal because tomorrow I'm really going to need that stuff and I'm really going to regret that I didn't spend money on it today. Peer pressure. If everyone else is doing it, it's hard to say no. If everyone else in your guild has bought the battle pass and that's brought other benefits to the guild, the fact that you haven't is more obvious. Altruism. Some players really like to help other players. So if I can spend money, maybe get something for myself, but I'm also doing something for other players and my friends and my family, that's really powerful and can drive a lot of players. Value, I don't want to repeatedly spend, and I know I'm going to need these gems, so maybe I'll just buy them now. Or maybe I'm going to buy the $100 pack because I get enough that it's going to last me for the next month or two. Recognition. This thing will, really lay out who I am. Some of these things can be combined too. In World of Warcraft, there's a mount that you can buy for 5 million gold. And when you have it, it gives you this mobile auctioneer. And a lot of players will buy that and then go and park in a city. And suddenly people have access to an auctioneer where they didn't before. A little altruism going on there, but also recognition. They know, oh, wow, this guy spent 5 million gold getting this mount, and now he's doing nice things for me. Finally, long-term value. We've seen a lot of these offers popping up lately where, you spend $20 once, and at certain milestones in the game as you're playing, you unlock free content. But let's reflect just a little bit. Why do players play games in the first place? They play them because they find it fun. And so why would they spend if they already find the game fun? Well, spending needs to make the game more fun. And each purchase must be of value. If you fail to give your players what they're expecting to get, at a very minimum, they're going to have feelings of regret. And that's not a good feeling to have after you make a purchase. You want them to feel delighted about the purchase, not regretful. When they're regretful, they're not going to spend again. And I often talk to game studios who so often get this wrong. I ask the fundamental 2 questions, which is, so what about your game is fun? What do your players find fun in your game? And sometimes they can answer that, but not always. And I think that's very important for us to know. And not only is that important to know, but the second question, how does spending in your game make your game more fun? Because if it doesn't make the game more fun, why in the world would players do it? So you've got to take that mindset. More than anything else, how is my game fun? And how can doing some sort of monetization activity make the game more fun? So how do I know how my game is fun? Well, you should be playing your game a lot, often. You should be among your most engaged players. You should also be talking to your players. A good tip that I like to recommend is, set up a weekly call on Discord, 2 p.m. on Fridays. I'm going to be here for an hour. Come talk to me. Your players will. And it's really fruitful because they'll know, oh, Friday at 2, I can come and actually talk to the devs and they listen to me. They care about me. Builds those relationships, and the insights that you can gain in talking to people far outweighs anything else. Lastly, survey your players, but not just any survey. Sure, you can give a survey to all your players, and that has some usefulness, but not really that useful, because how do you know what they've actually done? Where they're at in the game, different things. If you can actually give your players segmented surveys, target just the players that engaged in the weekend event last weekend. Target just players that bought that special offer. Ask them what they thought about those things. When you can divide, what did my paying players say versus my non-paying players, or my Brazilian players versus my German players, you can start to really understand them a little bit better and really understand, what does each of these groups of players find fun in my game? What are the activities that they like? Same thing, So thinking about spending in your game, why would players want to spend? How does spending make your game more fun? Well, you should be playing your game a lot. So why do you want to spend? And if you don't want to spend in your game, something's probably wrong with your monetization strategy, because there should be a desire. Even if you're not going to spend, there should still be that desire to spend. Again, and talk to your players, survey your players, especially if somebody bought something. Ask them, what were you expecting to get when you bought that? What did you actually get? Did I meet those expectations? Because if I promised you something and how that offer looked and I failed to deliver that, that's a really regretful experience, and you're probably unlikely to buy again. But if I promised you something and I gave you even more, that's a very different experience. But you should be talking to your players, understand that. Also, and maybe even more importantly, let's say you have a paying player who suddenly stops spending money in the game. You need to talk to that person, especially if they're at risk for churning. What happened? Did you fail to deliver something? Did something else happen in the game? Because if that one player is going to leave, chances are others like them are going to leave, and that is a huge loss to any game. Let's all see if we can make things more fun. So let's go through a few little examples here of how games have actually done this. So Royal Match, coming a little popular lately. It's X-Peak Games. They just raised like $50 million to really scale this game up. Something that this game does is it's kind of a standard casual match 3 puzzle game. And there's a great deconstructor of fun if you want to go into more details on how they actually do that. But what's really fun in this game is blowing up the entire map and beating all the objectives, getting that star at the end. How do you do that? You do that by making these combinations such that you can get the really big setups where you've got the bombs beside each other and you can blow away the map. Now, what often happens in Royal Match, by design, mind you, that very last turn that you have, you're finally able to set up that big combination. But oh no, we're out of turns. And you can barely see it in this screenshot. It was actually very hard to capture here. It's one of the problems in the game. But you can kind of see that big setup there waiting to happen if I just spend a little. But if I spend those 900 coins to continue to play to get those +5 moves, well, I get to blow up the level. I get to do that thing that I've been working so hard to do on that map. I also don't lose all the things that I've accrued in here towards my live ops opportunities. And I don't have to replay this level again. So it's like a triple whammy. Psychologically, it reinforces because I get that fun moment. It's even more fun, which is blowing everything up. And I avoid that lost pain. And it's instant. Because as soon as I hit that 900 coins for +5, I get to do that activity. Really rewarding. League of Legends. What's fun in that game? Well, unlocking champions, mastering them, proving yourself to be better than the opponents, and gaining in ranks. Well, as you master a champion, everyone else kind of all looks the same. So maybe keying a little bit into that creativity, that uniqueness there, that immersion, you can spend a little money and get these really unique champion skins that have like your ability to suddenly look different. You look different. When you're logging into the game, everyone sees, wow, they've got this really awesome looking skin. Makes the game more fun. The champions that you enjoy playing are now even more fun to play. Adventure capitalists. This can be done with ad monetized games too. And they do a beautiful job here. So in Adventure Capitalist, what you do is you basically start with a lemonade stand and live the entrepreneurial journey where you eventually make enough money to launch a newspaper stand and keep going from there. But really what's fun is making a lot of money, like ridiculous amounts of money. So what would make that more fun? Well, what if you could just watch a single ad and double all the money that you make for the next 4 hours? It's pretty powerful, right? There you go. Makes the game more fun by doing a monetization type action. So with those examples, I just want to switch gears a little bit into offers and things that we can do psychologically to reinforce when we show them to players and how they respond to them. We'll first start with the concept of reciprocity. Now, if you've ever been to Costco, you'll notice that they always have these like free sample stands out. And after you try something, you're much more likely to buy it. You almost feel obligated to. Now, if it was really disgusting, you probably won't. But if it was like on the line, you're probably much more inclined to do so. A great example of this in games is Game of Thrones Conquest. And it happens right at the beginning. So it's a great example that everyone should check out. But what happens is, as soon as you finish the tutorial, they gift you your very own dragon egg, which anyone playing Game of Thrones obviously wants their dragon. In fact, I think anyone in the world, unless you're crazy, wants their own dragon. But you got an egg. And then immediately after getting this free gift, this valuable egg, you're hit with a hatch your dragon offer. That's raw, that's meaningful. Now, the logical people could look at that and see, oh, this could have just been like a super wood sale, because really all you need is like 1,000 wood to hatch your dragon, and you just, click through it and stuff. But that's not as powerful as hatch your dragon. And because I just got this free gift, now I get to do the thing that I really want to do with it, which is hatch my dragon. And I only have to spend a little bit, and I kind of feel good that they gave me something beforehand. I'm much more likely to spend. That is reciprocity in games. Next up, people like to be liked. We like to like things. We like people to like us. And so if you can make your game elicit these feelings of, hey, we like you, players are much more likely to engage and ultimately spend in your game. If it's very pay to win and the players feel over and over like you're just trying to get them to spend money, you're being mean to them, they can never win, they can never enjoy the game, they don't really feel like the game likes them, and that's going to make them turned off to the game. Authority. We tend to trust people that are in authority, which is why it's really important that we have the right people in authority. But when it comes to games, if you do this right, it can be really powerful. Maybe in a game, I create a wizard guide that takes the player through all the things that they need to learn on the journey, and they give them really valuable tips and tricks. And if the player learns that it is valuable to trust the wizard and the things that he tells me to do are good for me and how I play the game, when the wizard tells me, hey, this is a really awesome deal that you should probably buy, I'm much more likely to do so. Social proof. There's a reason why Amazon has reviews and why people look for those 5-star reviews and how many 5-star reviews are out there. It's because people like social proof. It's why websites have so many testimonials on it. Oh, if it works for somebody else, it probably works for me. So in your offers, if you have 1,000 other people bought this, players are much more likely to buy it than if nobody has bought it or there is no social proof. And finally, FOMO. or fear of missing out, of course, everyone's favorite in games. We need to be able to show offers that are time limited, because those will elicit feelings of, oh man, if I don't buy this today, I'm going to miss out on it tomorrow. Well, the caveat with fear of missing out is that you can't just run the same offer every single day, because players will soon realize that, oh, if I don't buy this today, well, it'd be available tomorrow if I wanted it. And chances are they're not going to spend on it at all, because it's always there. So you've got to use this sparingly and in the right moments and in the right ways. Loss aversion. So loss aversion is a very interesting concept, where things that we have is actually more valuable to us than, if we were to get those things directly. So losing $20 to us hurts a lot more than if we were to gain $20 in terms of the value that we get from that. One of the most interesting implementations of loss aversion I've seen in games is in one of the Asphalt games, where players can actually bet their cars against each other in a race. And if you win, you get the opponent's car. Pretty cool. But if you lose your car. That hurts. That hurts a lot. And now what happens after you lose the car, they give you a special offer where you can buy it back at a discount. And most players do, because, wow, I'm feeling the pain of losing that car that I really liked, and now I can get it back at a steep discount. Yeah, probably going to do that. Anyways, that's all for my tips today. I hope that this has been a really helpful presentation for you all. If nothing else, just remember, you need to understand what makes my game fun and how does spending make my game more fun. If you can get those two principles down, your games are going to be better. You're going to see better monetization, and everything is just going to work together. Again, I'm Tom Hammond. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Email me about anything. I love helping people make better games. Cheers.